This episode of Settle the Score is sponsored by Sky Sports. Stream Sky Sports flexibly on Now. What you want, when you want, no fuss. Go to nowtv.com to start streaming Sky Sports today. Hello and welcome to Settle the Score. My name is Harry Doran. What is going on in Wolverhampton? Burnley secured all 3 points with a 94th minute goal. Wolves are in utter freefall. And I mean, there's only one place to go this morning, and that's the fans' reaction, because it got ugly last night between Vitor Pereira and the fans at Molineux. Joining us this morning is Dave from Always Wolves and Natalie from No Nay Never. I mean, Natalie, results like that, 94th minute winner. I mean, a lot of people would probably back Burnley to potentially get relegated at the end of the season, but those are the results, and those are the 3 points that you need to pick up in the Premier League. It doesn't matter how it's done, how dirty, how nasty it is. I mean, it's pure jubilation when you're the away fan, and that happens as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're at the stage where 9 wins you need across the course of a season to avoid relegation. And, you know, there's a lot, you can pretty much discount a good chunk of those straight away from the teams that you're probably not going to get any results from home or away at the season. So when you start looking at your peers who are being threatened with relegation as well, they're the games that you have to convert. I think the most interesting thing for me yesterday is that it's usually Burnley that loses those results of the game. Like we saw earlier on in the season, heartbreaking goals going against us away at Old Trafford and at home at Liverpool, where we nearly got 2 very vital points. And it was individual errors in tiredness at the end of the game that cost us those points. Yesterday, we were the ones who were managing the game at the end. And I don't know whether or not that's just experience of being on the other side of it, but we protected our point. I think we realised towards the end of the game that a point away from home against one of your relegation peers is a really vital and a better result for us. But we didn't risk everything to try and save that point. We also went for it as well. So yeah, I'm delighted. I think it was a good end, good game management by Scott Parker at the end of the game.
Dave, your response to that? Obviously, we'll get into Vitor Pereira and the rest of it later on. But do you think that Burnley were the rightful winners? Of course, you brought 2 goals back. You had that chance at the end as well. You had the free kick that hit the underside of the bar. Do you agree with Natalie, or would you have...
Do I think Burnley were the rightful winners? According to the stats, you know, we had more possession, we had more shots. It was equal on shots on target. Our XG was, I'm just looking at the XG. I think our XG was 2.52 and Burnley's were 1.43. So I wouldn't say that Burnley were the rightful winners of the game, but they scored at the key moments, didn't they? And they started off. We were 2 goals behind, very like the Sunderland game. It's a game of 2 halves. We just weren't in the game until, in fact, we were gone until the penalty. We got a penalty out of nowhere. Our first penalty in like 18 months, actually. Strand Larsen converts the penalty, and then it's all Wolves after that, pretty much. The second half, you know, Burnley's second goal was like watching prime Brazil. They literally just cut through us. But our second goal was very well worked, and that changed the atmosphere at Molineux, and Wolves were pushing. John Arias hits the bar from a free kick. That goes in, it could all be very, very different. But at the end of the day, this is the story of Wolves' season. We've lost 5 points from the 86th minute onwards this season, and it happened again. Burnley, actually, at the end of the game, like what Natalie said, they were managing the game. They were frustrating. It's a draw away at Wolves for Burnley following on the victory over Leeds United is a really good point for them on the road. And they were frustrating. They were taking time. There was people going down with cramp. They were managing the game, and it was frustrating. Frustrating the fans. It was frustrating the players. Wolves wanted to get that winner. We needed it. We needed to win that game, and you know, we lost the ball and then it broke, and it's a nice little through ball and a finish. And, you know, the Burnley fans are absolutely delirious at the end. I mean, probably I'm guessing, Natalie, you were probably, let's just get the point. It's a good point. So to get the winner, in the way that you did, it's just such a bonus and it gives Burnley such a lift. And we haven't won in the league, Harry, since April the 26th.
Mm.
Um,
It was Leicester,
that's
wasn't
over a year.
Yeah, Leicester 3-0 away.
It's
it?
it's a nightmare.
It's an absolute nightmare. I mean, Natalie, you spoke then about sort of like the points you should have picked up. You know, that Mo Salah
Yeah.
penalty at Turf Moor. I mean, Bruno Fernandes scoring in the 90th minute penalty at Old Trafford as well.
Yeah.
There is a real team there. And I mean, I'm a Fulham supporter. You could ask Bournemouth supporters as well what Scott Parker, how they feel about Scott Parker. But I mean, he sort of like reinvented himself in a way at Burnley. And I've got to sort of like doff my cap to him and say fair play to him. I mean, I'm not his biggest fan. I mean, people at the Vitality will say the same thing at the same time as well. But you have some real quality in that Burnley team, don't you?
Definitely, and I think if you compare this team to the company era of 2 years ago, it's completely differently. I think we had a really good transfer window. You know, it's relative. You know, we didn't spend the money that say Sunderland did, for example, but I think we bought really, really well. And what we did this summer, which I think was different to the company era, company has some lessons to learn in terms of management. I think he ripped up the entire squad when we got promoted 2 years ago, declared that his championship winning side weren't good enough and changed the entire team. Scott Parker didn't do that. He kept the nucleus of the side that got promoted last season, kept the quality, signed the loan players that we had, which we didn't manage to do 2 years ago, and added some real quality in there. Like Ugochukwu and Florentino in that flat holding midfield are absolutely incredible. Like to have the flat midfield of Cullen, Ugochukwu and Florentina in that midfield, it just gives us a greater resilience in the centre. And I think what Parker has also learnt very quickly is that five at the back that he started the season with, which I understand, by the way, when you're facing Spurs and United and Villa and City and Liverpool, you know, you've got to try and stop those goals going in. But it wasn't making use of that really good midfield. So I think reverting back to four at the back has really, really helped. Scott Parker feels like he's exactly where Scott Parker needs to be. He's a really good fit at Burnley in terms of the community, the club, the board, the fans. And given the tough times that he had the last couple of Premier League outings, one of which he's only got himself to blame, let's be honest there. I think, you know, you can't, as Nuno knows, example at Forest, you can't come out bad-mouthing your board and expect not to lose your job. So I think one of which was his own doing, but I think it feels this time that he is getting a fair crack at the Premier League. He knows his job's safe, even if we go down. And there's a calmness about him, and there's a confidence that comes, I think, from being at the right space in the right time. And he's got some, like you say, he's bought really, really well. And his football can frustrate me sometimes. There are some times where it can make Gareth Southgate look a bit like an international rock star. Certainly last season that frustrated me. But he is the absolute epitome of trust the process. You've just got to just suppress that dramatic football fan that comes out every now and again where you go at the end of games, and just understand what he does very, very well. And look, we're on 10 points already. All I've heard for the last 7 weeks is how brilliant Leeds and Sunderland are doing and how terrible we are. They've not had the fixtures we've had. And oh, look, we're sat 10, you know, we've clawed our way 5 points clear the relegation zone, and things are just looking a little bit more rosy than they were.
I'm just glad that no one this season has spoken about Scott Parker's fashion sense, because it seemed that when he was at Fulham and Bournemouth, it was just constant. Oh, Scott Parker's wearing a new gilet. Oh, he's got a new
got it out of that
quarter-zip.
season. Last season, he got all of that, especially in the Championship. Championship sides were like, "What is going on here? Get out of here!" Yeah, it's the news cycle's bored of that now, which is a good thing.
Right, should we get to the part of the episode that, you know, we've been ignoring the elephant in the room, and it's going to be, I'm going to say, the saddest part of the show. Vitor Pereira, Dave, I mean, it was such great harmony. It was such great harmony when he started, you know, the pictures of him going into Weatherspoons and whatnot. And then you see the players in front of the fans at full time, Strand Larsen as well. I'm going to get on Strand Larsen a bit because some of his behaviour I thought was a bit weird. And then Vitor Pereira sort of like having verbal exchanges with the fan base at Molineux. Are his days numbered, would you say, Dave?
Are his days numbers? You can never tell with the ownership. Gary O'Neill's days were numbered for a very, very long time, but he, you know, they didn't make the decision sooner. Let me just put like this. I like Vitor Pereira. He's a very amiable guy. He came in a difficult situation last year. He turned the ship around. He got the connection back with the fans, the closest connection that we'd had since Nuno, going for points with the fans and stuff like that. We absolutely loved him. We went on a record 6 game winning run, which we'd never done in the top flight since something like the 40s or the 50s. Um, and we followed it up with a 13 game run without winning. Now, Wolves, in terms of records, that's the first time in the Premier League that a team that has won 6 games in a row have then not won in their following 12, 13 games. The scenes at the end yesterday, I'm in the North Bank, so it's the opposite side to where the scenes were. They're not a pretty look. They're not a pretty look to us as fans. They're not a pretty look to the owners who are being called out. They're not a pretty look to the world. It's not a pretty look for Vitor Pereira. My understanding is that I think Larson went over to talk to the fans. The fans have had enough. They were obviously gutted. This isn't just about yesterday's game. Vitor's came over, and there's been an interchange and a reaction. When these things start to happen, publicly, fallouts like this, it generally is the top. But I do need to make the point. This is not about yesterday's game. Losing a game, you can lose a game in the last minute to any
Yeah,
team.
true.
That's the Premier League. This is about a managed decline over the last 3 or 4 years. We were seventh, semi-finals of the FA Cup, quarter finalists in the Europa League under Nuno. We've gone 10th, 13th, 14th, 16th. Every year they've had this sustainability model where they feel that they can sell our best players, replace them with potential. And that model's been tried and failed many, many times by many clubs. So this is not just about Vitor Pereira, although he has to take responsibility for a 13-game run. And he's been responsible for, bringing in Dominic Arteta as a technical director. They've gone in, they have spent money, but this goes much deeper than Vitor Pereira. This is, as the fans are calling out, it goes all the way to the ownership, the hierarchy, and it's the frustrations that you're seeing bubbling over now have been manifesting themselves over many, many,
But
many
the thing
months.
is, the manager's always the one that's going to take the hit, and you've got Fulham at the weekend. I mean, with me being a Fulham fan, I look at this and go, do you know how our season's going, and us in 17th? I look at you and I think, do you know what, you'll probably get your first win of the season, to be honest with you,
Well,
against us.
That's the spirit.
But
That's
that
always-
is the spirit, but
always
that's just how it's going with football. But
That's always the fans' mentality.
Yeah, it is.
They're going to beat us. It's going to happen.
do you actually think, I know, honestly, that the ownership and whatnot, the owners are never going to part ways after a couple of bad results? That never happens in football. It's always the manager that's he's got to take it on the chin, really, if that means he's getting, called up to the boardroom and having, the executives all shouting at him and having a go and saying, do you know what, you've got 3 games to save your job, or you're packing your bags. Fulham at the weekend, do you think that Vitor Pereira will be in the job, yes or no?
According to all the reports on all the media outlets, it looks like he will be. That's what's coming out. That's what the mood music. I will say that last night there was a lot of Fosun representatives at Wolves. The second in charge of Fosun International was at the game with a lot of other Andy Pan. His name is. He's the guy that's over the entertainment arm of Fosun. He was at the game last night with other people. You just don't know. But the mood music coming out of in the media that he's going to get given more time. Did Wolves, go for it at the end? Did we look more like a team in the second half? Were we pushing for the win? Yes. Were they trying? Yes. But you can't keep saying this. So
And you were poor in the first half as well, though, Dave. I think that's probably what you've got to look at it on a balance. Yeah. He got it wrong in the first half. So yes,
it was the same at Sunderland. Yeah. And also his in-game substitutions against Tottenham Hotspur, against Brighton, where we were 1-0 up and we just sat back. His decision making, a lot of the fans are calling for him to go.
Are you calling for him to go?
I'm not gonna publicly say that. I just think after if you haven't won for 6 months and let's face it, it's not just in the league. We didn't win any of the pre-season games. We've won in the Carabao Cup. I don't see how any manager survives that. Really,
But what I would say as well, sorry, Dave,
he
who
had
do
a
you
lot of
get?
credit in the bank because of what he's done and because the connection he has. But that's run out, and he's well into his overdraft.
Yeah. Sorry, Dave, I jumped in there, but I guess my question to you would be, like, who do you get? There's not a rich like array of managers out there that can come in and do it. And a lot of the rescue consultants that you would normally expect to come in and settle the ship have been scooped up somewhere else. It's like,
Well, Nuno might be sacked by West Ham soon, so it might be a
that's
homecoming.
true, yeah.
Well,
Got
the
that
thing,
round, yeah.
apparently, the thing with Nuno going to West Ham as well, he hasn't been able to take his team because they're still being paid by the Forest owner, I think. So Nuno normally has a team of people, and he's not
Yeah.
there. He's not gone with him. That's the big question. Who does come in? I mean, it's a difficult one. I know one manager that would probably walk on water to come to manage Wolves. That's Rob Edwards from Middlesbrough. The reason for saying that he worked through his badges at Wolves. He worked through all the setup. He actually briefly took over as caretaker manager. He managed Luton. He's got a bit of Premier League experience. He's doing an amazing job at. I'm not saying Rob Edwards, but I'm just saying he was probably who would come to manage Wolves at this point. He would probably be one manager that would, because he's got such an affinity to Wolves, and he knows the club. He knows the club from he was there for years, and he's a young coach who's got a bit of experience. Maybe he's someone that could come in. I don't know, but who else other than that? I don't. It's difficult. That's the big question. If Vitor Pereira goes, who comes in?
Dave, Natalie, thank you so much. Good luck for the rest of the season if I don't speak to you. This episode of Settle the Score is sponsored by Sky Sports. Stream Sky Sports flexibly on Now. What you want, when you want, no fuss. Go to nowtv.com to start streaming Sky Sports today.